Yeah, it is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. It looks like I'm parading through the jungle. You're not far off. I'm in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil for UFC 301. So internet's hanging in there. Travel mic. Going with the interrogation lighting from the right. And this is all, of course, playing off of Soto getting a brand new camera. So I just look terrible by comparison. Oh, I'm just making you look good on purpose. We'll go with the second one.
In all actuality, this new camera of mine is just an old cell phone. And I was reading up on getting new cameras, and one of the guys from the gym does a podcast, and his video is like sweet. I'm like, what do you use, man? He's like, I had a couple old cell phones sitting around, and those cameras on those phones are way better than anything you can really, unless you want to pay like $3, $4, $5 for a fucking camera. I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, try it. If you have an old phone sticking around. I'm like, all right. Had an old phone in a drawer, charged it up, put it up, and I'm like, pretty damn good. Saved myself a couple $100.
A little podcast hack for everybody. Whereas I'm just constantly trying to like focus.
Yeah, use your cell phone. It's freaking sweet. Right. It makes me look handsome as fuck.
Oh, made it better already. Bam. Well, we got a lot to get to. Personnel, draft-wise, etc. But I want to open up with this. Las Vegas Raiders announced inaugural Raiders fan cruise. There's a Raiders cruise. Set sail March 2025. Leaves Los Angeles. 7-night Mexican Riviera cruise.
God damn.
You get to hang out with former Raiders, alumni, do some meet and greets, beach parties, autographs, photo ops. Does that sound like an amazing, awesome vacation or kind of fucking weird?
No, that sounds fucking lit, bro. That cruise, that shit's gonna get. They're only gonna do it once, because Raider fans are gonna start just getting too crazy. They're gonna start fighting other fans and like other places. Like they're gonna stop at a port, and someone's going to be walking around like a Vikings hat. Like, oh, fuck that dude. They're going to over and kick his ass. They're going to start fighting each other.
There's going to be some pregnancies that their Raiders are going to be official for. They're going to be on the hook for.
At least a couple of throat babies.
So I went on one cruise my entire life. I took the then girlfriend, now wife, when we were like 21, 22 on a Mexican cruise. And we hated it so much we broke up. That we literally broke up when we came back from that cruise. We got back. Don't you worry, guys. We got back together later.
Cruises are rough, man.
But it was. That's what I'm saying. It's like I don't know.
Okay, why didn't you like the cruise? What was the problem?
Just the company. We were just fighting. So it soured a cruise for me forever. I see. It's just like a white trash hoedown cruise.
Oh yeah,
it's like all you can eat.
White trash or ghetto, depending
gambling.
on which one you go on.
Yeah, it's for broke ass people that want to party. You know what I mean? It's like a junior college frat party with a sail, which is appealing. But it just left a bad taste in my mouth. So now you just throw in some Raider greats in there. I don't know. It's like, how many times could you like shake Art Shell's hand and then be like, okay, now what are we going to do? You know?
You walk up and he's fucking sleeping in the chair. You're like, damn it.
He's impersonating what he did when he was the head coach. Just asleep at the wheel.
You remember Reggie McKenzie when they caught Reggie McKenzie asleep at the combine?
Yeah.
I was like, God damn it.
That guy's so big too. How do you think you're just gonna be like sneak in like under a chair somewhere and fall asleep? You're 300 pounds.
Yeah, there was like nobody. You see a 300-pound redheaded black dude with freckles sitting in a freaking stadium seat with nobody around him. Like, yeah, no one's gonna notice.
You're gonna stick out a little bit, just a little bit. So let us know.
I think it's pretty freaking cool, man. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's going to be a good time. For those who are willing to risk it, they're going to get the biscuit because it has the potential to be super sweet and it has the potential to go really bad.
I would look up bail bondsmen in the southern peninsula of Mexico before you go.
It's like if one of the dudes does something wrong, everyone's going to be looking for someone in a Raider jersey. And you look down, you're like, crap. Yeah. I am wearing one.
Adam Carolla has a great line. He's like, if you ever want to clean up crime in an area, just put up a sign that says free cockfighting for Raiders fans. And then whoever shows up, just arrest them. because they're probably a criminal. And I'm like, oh, maybe this is the Fed's way to try to like get us all into one boat.
You see that video you see that video is like in like Cleveland or something, where they were like setting all these like people with warrants. They're like, oh yeah, you come on down on this day, and with your ID and verify who you are, and you could spin for the chance of getting a new car. Mm-hmm. The police did that sting. You see that?
Yeah, the new one was Super Bowl tickets in like the 70s. Same thing. It's like, hey, you have a chance to win Super Bowl tickets. Come down, and just all these people like on parole with warrants out. Everyone showed up.
They had a guy. They had a undercover officer in like a chicken outfit, and he would hug them and stuff. He was basically patting them down, making sure they didn't have any weapons on them. Oh, it was so sweet. People
That's
were
back
like,
"Oh man, you're creative." You know what I mean?
So
now it's just stop, frisk, and shoot. Back then, the cops were like, "All right, let's come up with some fun ways to get the criminals."
Yeah, they don't frisk before they shoot in Long Beach.
Yeah,
like they shoot and then they yell at you to stop moving and put your hands up. Like, dude, I'm fucking shot. What do you want me to do?
Let us know in the comments section. Raiders cruise, time of your life or kind of weird? So the Raiders draft grades are in. Everyone and their mom has a grade, and the Raiders did pretty well. Not surprisingly. SI A-, CBS A-, Pro Football Focus B+, Bleacher Report B+, ESPN, Mel Kiper specifically B, Yahoo B, The Ringer B-, Fox Sports B-, NFL.com B-. Now, in fairness, NFL.com, their lowest grade was a C+, because it's NFL.com and everyone's always the best at everything because it's NFL.com. And our A-, our highest grade, the lowest grade from SI was a D+. So they're pretty generous with their grades, Soto. But almost unanimously, there was no, and I think I understand because I think all media wants to be like very generous with the grade, unless you do some mind-bogglingly something stupid.
Unless you're the Falcons,
unless you give Kirk Cousins $180 million and then draft a 24-year-old
with the 8th overall pick.
So that's like, unless you do something ridiculous, I think they're generally going to be pretty happy with it, and they weight it. Right. And like the first 2 picks were best players on the board. Second pick was a position of need. Uh-huh. So yeah, I think overall, the outside media looked at the draft the same way you and I did. Just like, okay, no reaches, no giant foul ups.
Yeah.
Best player available most of the time. Filled in some needs on the back end. Couple late steals that are low risk. Like I think generally the mainstream sports media looked at it the same way you and I did.
Yeah, I mean, I think reading through some of these earlier, the low grades were due to not getting a quarterback.
Yeah,
and that was the only thing. Everything else was like the players that we selected at the places where we selected them wasn't the problem. The issue was not getting a quarterback, and I remember somebody saying that if we don't get a quarterback, the draft is a massive failure. I don't know who that was. Maybe it was you. Maybe it was me.
Was it me? I didn't say that. Did I?
Yeah, you did.
I did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
like a failure.
Ultimately.
And you tweeted, "Don't be cute. Go get the quarterback."
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, we weren't cute. We just couldn't, we couldn't move up. And listening to Telesco today listening to Telesco today on NFL radio, he was being interviewed by Bill Polian, who was a longtime, Hall of Fame freaking executive himself. And he said, we tried. But if you got a top 3 pick and you need a quarterback and there are quarterbacks there, you're probably not going to want to trade out. So it's like we could offer a lot. And just from what he was saying, it sounded like they tried to move up and they were just being told to fuck off. At 2 and 3. And then after that, they didn't really value the next 3 quarterbacks to pick in the first round. And that the people who did pick them were basically reaching.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like, I feel like what I said during the draft and what I said on our draft recap, it was like, it just like quarterback was never an option. Or like, there's nothing Telesco could have done that wouldn't make Raider Nation unhappy. because we left without a quarterback, which is a bummer. But if he would have had to spend what it would have taken to get a quarterback, we'd be just as pissed, right? We'd be just like, we gave away 3 first-rounders and a Pro Bowl or like whatever. Like, that's what it would have taken. So it was, and that's what we should be proud about with Telesco is he stayed calm, stayed the course, didn't get emotional, didn't reach for a guy, didn't go get the guy, just played the board, played the value.
You know,
it was a team that we liked.
The issue that we're running into right now with a lot of fans, especially, is they're thinking that you should draft a quarterback just to draft a quarterback. Well, no, you have to be confident that that quarterback is going to be the guy that you want. And it's really simple and it's really easy for people to say, just go get a quarterback when it's their job is not depending on the selection. Like most of these, like 90% of these, including Mel Kiper, they mock all these, they grade all these drafts, but none of them have made a pick that their job relies upon it. So they want to be comfortable with who they're picking. And I have no problem with hearing Telesco say today that he didn't feel the need or he didn't feel that it was a value to move up to take the rest of the quarterbacks that weren't the top 3 ones, because he didn't feel that they didn't grade out as high as the guys he already has in the room. And say what you want to say about Farva and say what you want to say about Guard Dog. Those guys have performed pretty well in this league already. They've won games in this league already. So it's really difficult to kind of like stitch those two kind of scoutings together. You're scouting a guy from college and you're scouting a guy who's actually done it in the NFL and project. It's really difficult to do that. And some people, some evaluators are going to lean towards the college tape, and some evaluators are going to lean towards the NFL tape. And it sounds like Telesco is leaning more towards the NFL tape on this one.
Well, and the whole getting a quarterback, I mean, who could have predicted that 6 would have went in the top 12? Right? Like we were thinking like, okay, top 3, probably top 4, right? And then, maybe 1 late in the first, Bo Nix will go in the second. I think that's kind of like what you and I were ish thinking, rest of the NFL kind of along those lines. And then boom, no quarterbacks available, like first or second round talents when we came to pick. And so it was like, because it felt that way. It felt going in quarterback or bust, but again, more importantly than getting our guy and filling our holes is playing the board. Play the value. What's coming your way? What isn't? Don't reach. Don't undersell. That's what Telesco did.
He went a range. He went a range. Like I'm not gonna pick the absolute tippy top person on my board if we can't use them or we don't have a place for them. Mm-hmm. But I mean, luckily we had need at a lot of different places. Like we didn't have 2 tackles, starting tackles, stuff like that. So we can fill gaps wherever. And they just picked the top guys. And, it seemed to have worked out. They didn't move at all. They didn't trade up or they didn't trade down, nothing. They just stood there and they let the draft board come to them. And they made some smart picks.
The only other, and it's not even a criticism, it's more just kind of like they could have zigged what they chose to zag. Mel Kiper brought up. And he said, you can question whether the Raiders should have targeted a cornerback instead of Brock Bowers, but Bowers is a great prospect, so I'm not going to downgrade their choice. So that was really the only other, I guess, kind of like critique that could have been out there is we needed a number 1 corner. We didn't get one. Mm-hmm. Instead, they went best player available with Bowers. And so we're both comfortable with that. I think time will tell whether we should have picked up, the Toledo or Alabama corner, I think there's a case to be made that one of those corners could have made a bigger instant impact potentially because the need is so big there's a much bigger need for a number 1 corner than there is for another pass catcher. But the philosophy is Brock Bowers is going to be potentially such a superstar that you're not going to look back and be like, oh, I really wish we had that Toledo corner back in 2024.
Well, one thing we have to take a look at here is being the best corners in the class versus, like I said, the corners that are in the NFL. And that's what you're comparing them to. So, yeah, these are the best corners in the class, but we didn't have a Sauce Gardner in this group. or Asante Samuel, in this group. Like, we didn't have those guys coming out who were like, well, this guy's going to be a guaranteed lock, legit friggin' player. Like, we even said so. Like, yeah, they're good, but they're not like, they're not a Sauce Gardner in this class.
Yeah.
But, they're really good and they have good measurables, but they weren't rated as high as Sauce was coming out. And then you get, like, a blue chip prospect that's, bigger, heavier, and faster than Marvin Harrison Jr., who went 4. And you can't tell me that Marvin Harrison Jr. has better hands than Brock Bowers does, or better abilities after the catch. They're both really, really good. And you get him at a value position of tight end.
In fairness, Brock Bowers played against a bunch of pussies in the SEC. You know what I mean?
True.
So he wasn't really having good competition. It was like he was going against good defenses or NFL players on the other side of the ball. Or like, the more I watch Brock Bowers, the more I think, like, because the guy can do other than block, which he's just kind of like okay at. Which hopefully, because if he can be a legit above average blocker, and we can stay in one running back, 2 tight end sets, like, it's gonna be lights out, and we can run the ball behind him, like, on top of everything. The way, like, he runs like a running back, he catches like a wide receiver, he follows the ball like a wide receiver. You know how when you're a kid, you're like, all right, the perfect chick, Megan Fox's face, Pamela Anderson's boobs, Jennifer Lopez's ass, Farrah Fawcett's hair. That's Brock Bowers. You're like, oh, Christian McCaffrey running. It's like Mike Allstott going through a hole. It's Randy Moss, following along the ball. It's just like he's like a computer generated guy. Like, you're not supposed to be 99 and everything.
Yeah, he was a good blocking tight end in college. He's probably an above average blocking tight end. I think he can get much better. I don't know that they moved him around so much. He wasn't really blocking a lot of linemen in college. He was blocking a lot of, like, he was out in space because he's so mobile. He was one of the guys out in space blocking linebackers and DBs and stuff. Yeah. Which, I think if the Raiders are smart, they'll scheme things up that way and not put him, like, head up with, like, Chris Jones or something like that to, block one of those, that type of guy.
Well, that's the beautiful thing, is he can be lined up as like a slot and like crack guys. You know what I mean? Like, he can be, look at him more as just like the best blocking wide receiver as opposed to a hands in the dirt, 6th lineman. I think early on, unless he can, like, really develop as a better blocker.
I don't think there's anything on the football field that he can't do if he doesn't put his mind to it. And if he's being told, hey, we're going to need you in this system, we're going to need you to get better at X, I think he'll get better at it. This dude is just a super athlete.
He lined up in the Wildcat.
Yeah, he ran the ball.
He really lined up at quarterback.
And he was scoring touchdowns. And that was one of their big plays in the red zone and, like, 2-point conversions and stuff, was to motion him into the Wildcat or direct snap. And it's, we always talk about like, to really, a coordinator, offensive or defensive coordinator, they really show what they're made of when they don't have athletes, right? Like Patrick Graham, what he did last season, like, yeah, we got Maxx and guys performed, and like we added Jack Jones late, but really, like, he made a really, really good defense out of, on paper, not great players. Like, the sum of the parts outweighed, like, the product outweighed the sum of the parts. That's what you're looking for, right? That's what you want as a coach is, here's your players, make them better than what they should be on paper, right? The other part is, the flip side of that coin is, when you have a stud, being able to use him correctly, right? Like Josh McDaniels with Davante Adams, he's like, well, you're just going to be my Randy Moss. Like, well, he's not Randy Moss. He's so good, he could do it. Like, if you need him to play that, he can, but you're not maximizing what Davante Adams does well. Josh McDaniels is like, no, you're going to fit in my system. I'm going to take this square peg and put it in this round hole. That's what Telesco needs to, what we got to do on offense with Brock Bowers is, okay, maximize this. Don't just slot him in as like, oh, I have a good tight end, he's going to be my version of a tight end. Like, no,
You need to make him the Brock Bowers version of what you think he can be in the offense, and not just plug and play your tight end.
It's going to be a good test for Getsy to see how he reacts to. Because I don't know that anyone in the organization thought that Brock Bowers was going to be available. So I don't know how much Luke Getsy was making this kind of hybrid set a part of his game plan, but he better hurry up and make it quick, because I'm sure they had packages with it. He just needs to expand on it, which it's not necessarily a tough thing to do, because you just make him a slot receiver most of the time, and just adjust either motion or different things to kind of get the matchups you're looking for. So that's not super difficult, because the concept, like the passing concepts and the route combinations, are not going to change, because he can run every route. So it's going to be interesting to see how fluid it looks, having a second-year tight end on the other side, doing most of the traditional tight end work.
That's got to be like a carpenter getting a new table saw, an OC getting a Brock Bowers. Like, he has to be so excited to go into work that following Monday. Like, I get to draw plays for Brock Bowers. Like, that's got to be just like, all right, I'm going to masturbate violently this entire day. Just like wrangling up plays for Brock Bowers.
Dude, we should be so good in the red zone.
Well, and it's perfect, because we don't got traditionally strong arm quarterbacks, right? They're going to like throw bombs. It's yards after catch in the windows, and that's what Bowers can do, right?
Yeah,
screens and sweeps, jet sweeps. Just
the first guy rarely got him on the ground. Rarely got him, and when I mean rarely, I mean almost all the time. The first guy did not get him on the ground. He may have slowed him down, where another guy had to come clean it up, but he still got it maybe 1 or 2 extra yards. The first guy never got him on the ground.
He rumbles like Mike Allstott. Like, he reminds me of Mike Allstott. Just kind of
and he has pull away speed. He's not slow.
Yeah. The other part about the draft, it didn't really hit me till much after the draft, like earlier this week. It's like, because traditionally it was like, what were the needs going into the draft, right? Quarterback, corner, tackle. That was kind of like the biggest holes, biggest needs, biggest way to impact the team. We were just shy a guard as much as we were shy a starting tackle. Like, we needed a starting guard as much as we needed a starting tackle. I don't know why we didn't think that either, right? So, like, obviously loving our second round pick. But it's like, oh yeah, it's like we needed a starting guard, but because guards traditionally have been second tier and the tackle free agent market's pretty bad, I think that's part of the reason, right? People thinking just tackle, and it's such an important position. You can use a first rounder on a tackle. It's that premium position. But we needed a starting guard as much as we needed a starting tackle, and we got the best one of the bunch.
Yeah, I talked a little bit about it, that I was more comfortable with Thayer Munford. I think that a lot were. Mm-hmm. So guard, tackle it wasn't as like a desperate need. Was it a need? Yeah, of course it is a need, because we got rid of a bunch of tackles we got rid of 2 or 3 tackles that were on our squad last year. So we needed a backfill. And Munford was a swing tackle, so he was a guy that could play on the right side. He could play guard spots, and then also Luminor was a swing tackle. He can go back and forth between right and left tackle. So we needed to get some depth there. But Van Roten's gone. We signed Whitehair, but Whitehair used to be a Pro Bowler, but ultimately we don't know how much he's got left. And
you got a lot of white hair.
Yeah, I wonder what that's like. And then you go and you get what a lot of people had rated as the top interior offensive lineman in this entire draft, which I saw rated in the low to mid 20s overall. And you get him at 44. And he comes from a Raider family. It's a lot of check marks there. And it gave me goosebumps when he said, "I'm going to block so hard for you," to AP. I was like, "Oh, this guy wants it."
It was almost sexual in nature. I was like, "Oh God." Chad Reuter of NFL.com. Glaze will need to show he was picked at the right time by eventually earning a starting spot. Should a third rounder is that a third rounder?
Yeah.
Should be a starter at some point, right? Unless it's
Yeah.
quarterback. A third rounder should at some point in their career be a starter, correct? Or it's a miss.
Oh yeah. The first
Fair?
3 rounds, those are starters. You're drafting starters the first 3 rounds.
Because that was the closest thing to a reach. That was the closest thing to need versus reach, I think.
I read some scouting reports on him, and then I looked at some tape, and I saw exactly what they were saying. Is he moves to get in front. Like, he has good movement, and he moves to get in front of people. The issue that he has two big issues that he needs to clean up. Is his change of direction isn't great because his feet tend to get a little wide. And when that happens, it's hard to go from one way to the other. So double moves hurt him. Okay, there's one. And number 2, and it doesn't happen all the time, but when he's fighting like a more of a bull rush type of guy, when he engages, he just wants to fight upper body with his hands, and he forgets to move his feet. And that's when he gets beat on that. This is just coaching. That's all it is. The measurables and the skill set is there. He just needs to get coached up a little bit. And he can be a swing guy where he can play, even with those long arms, he can play tackle or guard. People were saying he's projecting him to play guard as well. So when you take a look at all of that, I can see him being a starter, maybe not this year, but definitely getting some playing time because he does have all the skill set. He's huge. He's got long arms. He's got good feet. He has a powerful punch. He's got big, strong hands that just latches onto guys. So you see all that on tape, but you also see some of the other stuff. And those inconsistencies are why he wasn't rated as high. But again, kind of like I forgot who said it, but it was Mike Tomlin said that coaches are afraid of coaching. They want to get like just guys and just give them plays. Well, if you're not afraid to coach a guy up and you see all these measurables and you think you can be a really good player, then I don't mind reaching a little bit for a guy, which with all reports, he was a little bit of a reach. When we take a look at some of the other stuff and why he was a reach, it's not that big of a reach.
Well, the good thing is Brock Bowers is going to help out whoever's playing quarterback for us. And if I would have told you so, though, people are like, oh, we didn't get a quarterback. We got Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. It's like, yeah, great mustaches, but are they really that great a quarterback? It's like, well, what if I told you, Soto, that we could have a quarterback that's as good as Trevor Lawrence? Would you be like, oh, hell yeah, we got our quarterback of the future? Like, we're set. He's as good as Trevor Lawrence. We're good to go.
Maybe if his hair was as good as him.
Now, stats don't tell the entire tale, but this has been making the rounds. Trevor Lawrence and Gardner Minshew. Minshew's had 49 games he's played in, 37 starts. Trevor Lawrence, 50 games, 1 more game played, and 13 more starts. Gardner Minshew has 59 touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence has 58. Gardner Minshew has 24 interceptions. Trevor Lawrence has 39. Now, there's a lot of other stats to it, but that's pretty nice to see, Soto, that Trevor Lawrence, who's been, kind of ordained as the next generation, and you got Gardner Minshew putting up almost exactly the same stats, if not better.
Yeah, man, and that's what people are looking at when they see him and they want to project moving forward. And that's really all you can do is look at past performance and situation. I think his situation where he is now, I don't think that he's had a better offensive group around him than what he has now. And if the Raiders defense performs anywhere close to what they did the last 9 games of last year, I think this is going to be the best defense that he's ever had as a player. I mean, he played in Philadelphia, but he didn't play there. He never really got into a game.
Yeah.
But I think that this is a situation for him where you fit somebody that goes into the game, that has the mentality that you're looking for, that has the tools that you're looking for, but you put a lot around him. and you don't have to pay him like a top quarterback because he's not a top quarterback. So those are all positive things, and I think he doesn't think he's a top quarterback either. I think he just wants to go in there and do his thing and do his job. But I definitely do think he believes he's a starting quarterback in the NFL, and some of those stats prove it.
It's like I keep calling it like the Brock Purdy strategy, right? Or just surround your if you can't get the quarterback, just surround him with everything good that you can. And there's just a lot of good weapons and weapons that fit his skill set. You know what I mean? Only one or one and a half deep threats really, but that's not really Gardner Minshew's strength, right? Buy you a little time, get you, hit those hitches, those slants, right? Mid-range passes, yards after catch, pound the ball to set it all up, play action off of it all. That's how this team.
What did he really do last year? Okay, he did a lot of combo routes. So you had like an out with a slant over it, or you had like a corner route with an in cutting route underneath it, and maybe a guy going into the flat. Like you had a lot of these combo routes for him, or a double slant, or it's like you had all these combo routes, and his thing is timing and placement, and he's got a strong enough arm to get balls down the field if there's mistakes or you scheme someone open. But what he's looking to do is let you run after the ball, and if he has to maybe throw a ball up in the air, he's got the placement enough to be able to get it away from a defender, so one of the guys can make a play on it. But it's all going to be about the combination. If he can get that down, if he can be, it seems like everywhere he goes, he just snaps in and he's the same guy. It's not like he's performed, really poorly in one place over another. So he just seems to be a guy that can pick things up quickly. But very similar types of offenses. The right combinations are very similar. And we're going to talk about in a little bit, Davante Adams gave it a seal of approval. So I think we're looking at something that a lot of people aren't looking at. They're looking at the very surface. They're not looking in depth.
Well, I think most people outside looking in look at how the team do, and that's how they grade it, right? Like Gardner Minshew didn't make the playoffs, and et cetera, et cetera. It's like, it was the Colts. It was just one of 53 guys on the roster. And we're not trying to make Gardner Minshew out to be Patrick Mahomes here, but
to be fair, a backup running back catches a ball and converts a fourth down, and they're in the playoffs.
One drop pass away.
Yeah, and he put it right on him too. What are you gonna do?
So Davante Adams was on the Rush podcast, and I'm telling you, man, if you watch one Raiders podcast, watch ours. If you watch two Raiders podcasts, watch the Rush with Maxx Crosby. It's great. The Gardner Minshew one is awesome, and the Davante Adams one's just dropped. We're recording this Wednesday night. Dropped yesterday. It's really good. Dude, I wanted to find a brick wall to run through when Max and Davante were talking about mentality, being the best, holding each other accountable. I was like, I've been retired forever, but put a helmet on me. I want to go through something. It was awesome. Really, really. Watch the whole thing. Yeah. But the thing that caught me the most, and it doesn't have anything to do with anything moving forward, I just thought it was kind of fun. We actually found out what Josh McDaniels was good at as a coach. Take a listen.
Josh McDaniels gets a lot of shit, but one of the things that he said to me that was like the realest, and I really never even had a coach stress it like the way that he did with me. He said, it was a couple things in practice or in games where it was a couple loafs or something, and he was like, I need you to go talk to these dudes because I can get in there and scream at them, but the more that they're worried about letting their brother down, that shit will mean way more than me getting on them or whatever. It's kind of like your literal brother or cousin talking to you growing up versus your dad saying, go clean your room. I guarantee you, my cousin never did this, but my cousin when they came in my room, be like, bro, what the fuck, clean your room. Yeah. I've been like, oh shit, like,
my shit must be dirty.
Yeah, my shit's already, this is not a good spot. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of that type of feel where you like you said, your brother do it a certain way. They like, well, I'm not gonna be the one to not do it. He's doing it. I gotta step up too.
That's some quality coaching, empowering his best player to make everyone around him better. There you go, JMD.
You let your leaders lead, man. You let your leaders lead, and you put them in a position to lead, and you make it easier for them to. You give them the pathway and the leash to lead. You don't tell them how to lead. You're like, look, I'm not telling you to scream at them. I'm not telling you to pull them aside and be their buddy. I'm saying that it's gonna, whatever you tell them, it's gonna be more coming from you than it is coming from me.
Well, and it was an empowerment because it was like you would do it better than me, right? It's like,
or it would make more of an impact coming from you than me.
Yeah, it's like that. My follow-up question, and the thing I want to know the most was, did Josh McDaniels say this at the beginning of 2 seasons ago when he first got started and thought he was hot shit, or did he tell Davante this later last season when he'd already lost the locker room? So he's like, Davante, these motherfuckers aren't going to listen to me. Can you please tell them?
For sure. That's a good question.
I would love to know.
One other thing that I was really encouraged by on this episode of The Rush was how glowingly Davante Adams talked about Luke Getsy and his offense.
Yeah.
And about how the offense was, not only was the offense the same offense that he had in Green Bay, which used a lot of tight ends, used a lot of motion, used the running attack a lot, but also how comfortable that he was in the system and how he was able to put up big numbers, and how he was comfortable with either one of the quarterbacks running and playing the quote unquote Aaron Rodgers role in that system. Because some of the things that they have, or some of the things that Aaron Rodgers really banks upon. I guess Aaron Rodgers has a little bit more playability when the play breaks down, but he's got a little bit stronger arm. But it's just about placement, timing, and reading the route combinations and the defense. So I think he's comfortable with either one of these quarterbacks doing that. Maybe not to the level that Aaron Rodgers did it, so they won't score 28, 29 points a game like Aaron Rodgers' teams did. But if it's anywhere close to that, I think we're in good shape.
That was very reassuring for me because Davante Adams isn't a bullshitter. He's not going to hype up Getsy if he doesn't believe it. And that was the most disappointing hire for me, coaching-wise, this last offseason. I liked Telesco, liked AP, and then they hired Getsy and it was all, He didn't do great at the Bears. Justin Fields never really grasped it. That offense never really got off the ground. But hearing Davante say, like, yeah, no, it's the system's legit. Like, the pieces work, and he's familiar with it, and hyped it up. And I didn't pull the clip. I'm in the middle of the jungle, and I've been up for 36 hours, so I didn't. But he didn't. Like, they didn't ask him, like, hey, what do you think of Luke Getsy? And Davante was kind of like, well, I have to say something. I can't say. It was unencumbered. Like, he was jumping out of his chair to talk about Getsy and the.
He's excited. He's excited. Yeah. He said he was. Because he was in this system for what, 8 years, 9 years?
Yeah.
He wanted that. Says 8 years. Yeah, he knows the system front and back. He talked about how he can help all the running backs, all the tight ends, all the receivers with this system because he knows what every single person does in every situation. And when you have a player like that who is not only that smart and that selfless, but that damn good to do his job and do it at a high level, you can't help but be optimistic about outcomes. Because ultimately, I mean, again, he has no horse in the race in Chicago. And he said himself, yeah, he was in Chicago and didn't have a good situation over there, which he was pretty much saying that Justin Fields couldn't run an NFL offense. Like, when you put up a lot of points, it was basically just throw up a deep ball. Throw up deep balls to DJ Moore, and then hopefully that they can't cover it. And you can't make a living outside the numbers in the NFL. You have to be able to use the middle of the field, which Justin Fields wasn't good at. And I think that's a bigger issue than people are getting it credit for. People that are really down on the Getsy hire, I don't think are taking into account how poorly Justin Fields ran that offense.
Yeah, and it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't, because if I don't have a basis of success to look back on, then I'm still not excited about it, but this was very reassuring from Davante that at least he is. It's like, okay, good. He grasps it. That infectious energy, like literally that was half the podcast, was talking about just being like the drive, being jacked to be there, being an example. And then he really truly believes, and he doesn't have to fake being excited about the offense. He genuinely is, which is great. I also think too, like a little part of it has to be that it's not Josh McDaniels' offense too. Like how AP got like he's so beloved, A, because genuinely he's that good and people love him, and B, he was coming after Josh McDaniels. I think Luke Getsy gets a little bit of that too.
It can be both. It can definitely be both. It can definitely be both, and I'm okay with either one.
Hey,
it's just
whatever makes them motivated and happy to keep playing.
Look, man,
I'll take it.
I'll take drive and dedication and determination and consistency over motivation. But guess what? Sometimes you need that motivation too. Mm-hmm. You need that extra kick. You need to be able to freaking find it from somewhere. And I think that when you have your leaders, right? You have a leader on either side of the ball who has, on top of the drive and dedication and determination and consistency, and on top of all that, they have that motivation now. On the offensive side, you have Davante Adams, who's now running a system he knows like the back of his hand. Mm. He's super comfortable with. He doesn't have to learn it over again. He's going to be able to help everybody in the offense, and he knows that offense works. And also he's comfortable with the pieces that they have. On the defensive side, you have Maxx Crosby, who is now unchained, ready to freaking go, ready to run through a wall with a defensive head coach who is giving him the opportunity to lead the way he wants to lead. And he has Patrick Graham, who has all that confidence and who's be able to let him do whatever he wants to do, right? So you put that together, you have your leaders on either side who are pumped up and ready to go. It's just good things are going to happen.
So you talk about pieces. The Raiders added a pretty big name. I don't know how, will he have a massive impact? Time will tell, but certainly name. Michael Gallup, former wide receiver for the Cowboys, signed a 1-year flyer up to $3 million. He was cut by the Cowboys to save $9 million in cap space. So we'll pay him up to $3 million. Jerry Jones will pay the rest. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it. He had some nice depth at wide receiver. We didn't. You can tell, like, because we didn't draft a receiver in the draft, like it felt like they kind of thought they were at some point going to draft a receiver, and they never did. So like, all right, we got Michael Gallup waiting in the wings. Up to $3 million for a guy who was once a 1,000-yard receiver, only 27. Like, sign me the fuck up.
Yeah, people don't
28.
Remember. People don't remember a lot, but they let go, or excuse me, pronouns, pal. The Cowboys let Amari Cooper go partially because of the emergence of Michael Gallup. Mm-hmm. CD Lamb hadn't broken out yet. It was partially because of the breakout of Michael Gallup that they thought they were able to, and then he gets hurt. But I think although people are coming back a lot quicker from ACL tears and injuries, not everyone does. So I'm hoping that he can come in. And if he comes in, look, your number one target is going to be Davante Adams. As of right this second, your number 2 target is Jacoby Myers. Your number 3 target probably going to be Bowers, maybe?
Bowers.
So if you get a Michael Gallup as your 4th or 5th target on a team, it's a lot of good players to get open and to make plays once they get the opportunity to. So yeah. It's a good hire. I mean, it's a good signing. It's something that we can use to kind of hedge our bets in case it takes a little bit longer for some of the younger players to get up and ready. We have this guy holding a place while the other guys get better.
Well, and we know why he was so cheap, right? Tore his ACL in 2021, has yet to really
didn't play great when he came back.
Show up after that, right? Like he had that 2019 season, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, like that breakout season. And then he injures himself in 2021. Jerry Jones still gives him the contract, even with the injury, and then back-to-back not great seasons. But that's exactly what you're looking for, right? Like, why is the guy available? Oh, he got hurt and never picked it up again, right? Christian Wilkins, like, why did we get him? Like, well, guys on free agency for a reason. Yeah, purely for money. Everyone wants them on the team. It was just purely money. And this was like, look, we can save $9 million to the cap. Like, we don't want to be part of Michael Gallup's recuperation tour. Like, we don't. He's too expensive to the Cowboys to be on the repair tour. Up to 3, we'll do the repair tour all season.
No Dude, if he reaches all his freaking milestones to get to $3 million, it'll be still a steal for sure.
You want to do some what up windbags, or do you want to do some free agency needs? How much time we got?
I
We can
mean,
do some free agency needs.
we
Let's do
can
some
go
free
5
agency
minutes.
needs.
Let's do 5 minutes.
Let's do it. Let's do some free agency needs. Corner, tackle, linebacker depth, pretty much it, right? Don't need wide receiver depth now that we got Gallup. Don't need a guard now. Don't need a tight end. Didn't need one before. Don't need one now.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say we didn't need one before because our starting tight end at the beginning of the year last year has moved on.
Mm-hmm.
So we did have the opportunity to backfill a position.
Well, we would have been comfortable with Michael Mayer being the starter, right?
Of course.
We would have been comfortable, but
And he's still going to be a starter, but we're just going to start more than one.
yeah.
So for me, it's depth at corner, I think, is the biggest need. It just so happens that a certain player, Mr. James Garoppolo, is no longer on the team. And because of this kind of a snafu he had, we don't owe him any money. So when we cut him, basically as of June 1st, we're gonna have all this. We're gonna have all this money coming in, and we're gonna have plenty of money to sign. I mean, there's a lot of good corners out there that we can.
Depending on which cap tracker you're looking at, it varies, but it's around 40 million in cap space.
We can get one corner. We can get a tackle. We can get a linebacker. We can get a lot of guys.
There's currently 3 roster spots open, and we'll have $40 million in a month of cap space.
Hell, you can even sign a guy early. You can re-sign a guy early and pay him now because you can stagger. A lot of times, what these teams do is they stagger who gets paid in certain years.
So when you say depth at corner, are you happy with like Jacorian Bennett and Brandon Faison competing for the number one? Because I think we need another starting corner. Or do you think our guys
depth at corner is another guy, and whoever wins the job type of thing.
But if we picked up like a Stephen Gilmore, Xavier Howard, Steven Nelson, like that would be their job to lose. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh, for sure, because they're going to be paid a lot more than the other guys are on the field, and that's you just follow the money first. So if we pick up a Xavier Howard, which I would be great picking up, or a Dory Jackson even, you pick up these guys, and I don't know that Stephon Gilmore is a fit for what we want to do, but I think Xavier Howard is, and I think Dory Jackson is for sure. So we put those guys in the role, and it's going to be their job to lose. And I don't think anyone takes their job initially. I don't think Brandon Faison is as good as those guys, even though those guys are a little bit deeper into their career. And it all depends on Jacorian Bennett too, man. If Jacorian Bennett figured it out, he could get a lot of playing time too. But I think you pay that money for a vet. You pay him that money because you want him to start.
I'd like Gilmore on the squad. I like Howard too. Howard has more health injury issues than Gilmore did. Gilmore played all 17 games last season. You're right. Howard kind of fits us more. Just
Howard and Jackson both. They fit a little bit better.
They all have their ups and downs. They all have their like.
That's why they're available. That's why they're available right now.
Any tackles you're looking at? It's pretty thin at tackle.
Yeah, basically what we're gonna.
Great.
Yeah, we're going to just get guys that are going to be backups. Anyone that we sign right now is not going to be for big money unless there's a cut later on to make some room when the kind of a second wave, the roster cuts and stuff like that. That's a possibility as well. But for right now, I don't see it. I don't see anyone seating Thayer Munford out of his job.
Well, then that's pretty much the old line set then. I mean, the offense is set then.
Yeah, it's pretty set.
Pretty much, right? Gardner Minshew, Zeus, Davante, Jacoby, Gallup / Bowers and Mayer, or Gallup, depending on the formation. Miller, Parham, James, JPJ, Mumford. Maybe another defensive tack. Yeah, then this is kind of like starting corner.
I mean, the
Starting corner is a big game.
The offense is not set because we don't know who our quarterback is going to be.
Well, he's on the roster, whoever it's going to be.
Sure. That's the starters, yeah. That's
free agency wise.
Free agency wise, no. Yeah.
I do want to start
personnel wise.
We need let's spend on a corner. We got 40 mil. Let's get one of the really good corners for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Jackson just gets hurt a lot. That's the only problem.
What the hell?
These guys all get hurt. The only guy that doesn't get hurt is the dude that's going to be most expensive and the oldest. It's Stephon Gilmore.
Did I die?
I'm looking at a cat now wagging its tail instead of you. Even your new camera that's a phone knows you're a cat person.
You like that?
Your old phone knows you so well. Is it dying because that's the phone you used to watch porn on? And so it's just littered in viruses?
No, it's because the screen time's out after an hour.
Oh.
So I gotta put it back up. There we go. We're good.
That was fun enough, or I don't have to edit that out. We're just gonna leave it. Because it's
not worth it. It's not worth the time, and it makes us just look great. It makes it look more personal.
Yeah. We're raw. We're raw dogging this show. And it's 1:40 in the morning in Rio, and I'm getting tired. What up, Windbags? You ready?
Why not?
Dakota Buckman, 31-40. We need a corner worse than anything. It would have been a bigger impact on the team. That being said, I'm fine with the number 1 pick. I think that goes back to like the one, I think, fair, not even criticism, but discussion about Brock Bowers is who would be more impact. When you draft someone, you think who's going to be impactful most importantly in the long term, and also who's going to be impactful in the short term. You think of those two things. Who's going to impact the team the best? And I think there's a case that a starting corner could impact more than, a tight end / weapon. I think there's an argument. I don't think you're outlandish in thinking that. I think that's fair. You can say that.
Look, but the issue that how you're presenting that argument doesn't cover or doesn't touch upon is that these corners aren't as good of corners as Brock Bowers is a utility, pass catching target.
At tight end, wide receiver, running back, H-back.
He's better by leaps and bounds at all those positions than any of those corners were at corner.
Jennifer Lopez's ass, Pamela Anderson's tits, Megan Fox's face. Who do you think's got the tightest? No, never mind. We'll make it too vulgar. There might be
Yinny Leon's just penchant for doing dirty things.
Richard Kidd, 5481. So glad we didn't take a quarterback mid-rounds. That wouldn't beat out Aiden O'Connell or Minshew. Well, yeah. A mid-round guy wouldn't beat out anyone this season. It is a long-term project if we got someone mid-round. And also understand, Farva still is looked at as a project. As of right this second, right, you're probably going to assume Minshew's the starter and, Farva's the backup, but they'll compete for it, and the better men will get it. But I think Farva is our project quarterback currently. He can be a starter in project, but he's, second year. First time new system. He was only a starter for half of last season. He still has the stank of Josh McDaniels on him. He has to unlearn last season before he learns this season. Again, I still, we're in the exact same page, Soto. We still think the ceiling isn't quite that high yet, but he has yet to get a really fair shake either. So
here's the difference that I see.
Joe Wings.
Yeah, here's the difference that I see. I think we know what Gardner Minshew and who he is, but we've never seen him with a cast of players as good around him as he has now. Mm-hmm. So there's cause for optimism of his play being elevated, number one. Okay, now let's put that aside and let's talk about O'Connell. We have not seen the best of him because of the situation he had last year. Even though the situation he had did give him one of the top wide receivers in the league and, the rushing champ, reigning rushing champ, and stuff like that. So he had good pieces to work with. The emergence of Jacoby Myers to be like a household name basically now. So he had a good cast. Now we need them. So it's basically the same thing. How good can they be? But instead of Minshew being better than he was before because of his cast of teammates being better, it's AOC. How much better can he be because he's now has a more stable system? Because they each didn't have the other when they were playing. When they were playing a lot, I guess Minshew had a good cast of characters to play with when he was with Philadelphia, but he didn't really play. So they both have a reason for optimism. It's just a different reason.
Now, how well can Minshew play when he's playing in such a great strip club town? That's the other thing that we're not.
I think he'll be okay.
That's the other thing we got to take into consideration. Those bitches don't close. I know. Believe you me.
But those bitches can close. You know what I'm saying? Those are closers over there.
They close that deal.
They will close that deal quick.
Cocaine is for closers. We've got 4. What a Windbags at the end. Wing Gardner, best draft pick since 2014, and Bowers is the best first rounder since Khalil Mack. Fish and Riff 7592. When Bowers is putting on his gold jacket, it will not matter where he was taking or what our needs were. Dwayne B. Raider, Brock Bowers will have the biggest impact on our offense. You can book it. A. Spivvy, thank you for being a member. RJ
Spivey,
is
bro. Spivey. You keep saying Spivvy. It's Spivey.
He's whatever the fuck I say he is. RJ is high. Brock Bowers is the most impactful pick we've had since Maxx. Dorada, 1254. If Taysom Hill and George Kittle had a baby and that baby was raised in Sparta, it equals Brock Bowers. He helps an average quarterback room. He helps the slot. He's a matchup nightmare on offense. So it was already Adams, Myers, and Mayer. We needed something to compensate for a lack of speed with our playmakers as a tight end. He's probably our fastest weapon minus Tucker. So a whole bunch of hyperbole on how good Brock Bowers is going to be. I'm all fucking here for it. What are our expectations for Brock Bowers? Just next season. What are our expectations? Do you have a stat line in mind? Do you have just part of the system? Is it work on one thing specifically? Is it a specific role? And I know it's still early. He's only been on the team for a week. So maybe we can shelve this for maybe later in the offseason if we want to. But what are your expectations for Brock Bowers?
Initially, my expectation for him isn't numbers really, but I want him to play a pivotal role in big game situations. I want in big in-game situations. Excuse me, third down, red zones, converting to touchdowns. Him on the field is going to cause a lot of issues personnel-wise that are going to make things easier for our quarterbacks to read, and a lot easier for our offensive coordinator to call plays. Because in the red zone, you're going to have to pick your poison if you're a defense when it comes to Brock Bowers, because you're not going to not double Davante Adams. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, if you want to not double him, fine. We're just throwing the ball, no problem. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the issues that I see it's going to help us make a lot of those field goals and turn them into touchdowns and extend a lot of those drives because of just how hard it is to get him on the ground at first touch. So you do a couple of those things well, and those little things, make a big difference when you put together the stats for an entire game. Brock Bowers broke a couple of tackles. Well, on those 2 tackles that he broke on third down and got first downs, we scored on those two plays, on those 2 drives where he wouldn't have previously. So I see him making not maybe a numbers impact because there's so many other weapons on this team, but I see his impact, secondary impact, making a big impact on how we are as a team offensively.
In mixed martial arts, they have what's called a gray area of MMA, right? So like in MMA, you'll have the kickboxing, the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu, like the arts, right? The skill sets. The gray area is everything in between, right? I'm in the clinch. It's not a Muay Thai clinch. It's not a wrestling clinch. It's not a judo clinch. It's an MMA clinch. I'm going to elbow, and then I'm going to fight an underhook, then I'm going to go for a takedown. I'm going to turn it into a punch, etc. Right? I want him to be the gray area of this offense. Trey Tucker's going to be our speed. Zeus is going to be in between the tackles. Davante is going to be double teamed at all times. We're going to find ways to get him open. Mayer's going to be a blocker who can also catch the ball if you need him to. Brock Bowers will be everything else. Brock Bowers will be this gray area kind of in orbit dude that you really can't game plan for because you don't know where the fuck he's going to be or what he's going to do. Is he going to run another wildcat? Is he going to do a jet sweep? Is he going to run up the seam? Is he going to run a post? Is he going to crack block? What's he going to do?
He's going to do a lot to help the other guys do what you just said. He's going to help these guys be able to do those things.
He's going to be the guy you can't scheme for. And when you start to scheme for him, Davante's open. Trey's open. The box is light. All that kind of things. Like I think that's what I want him to be this season. Because I love the excitement, right? Gold jacket, best impact since Maxx. Like, we'll see. That'd be awesome. But right now, like rookie season, find your role as the gray area guy that you can't really game plan for. And if you start to, something else is going to come open because you can't prepare for everything. And he's capable of anything. I think that's good for us. Any breaking news that happens, we'll take care of it. We got a whole bunch of new members last week or earlier this week. Thank you for joining us, guys. It's great. Memberships are available. They're down in the description. Multiple levels of membership. You get access to videos early, you can communicate with us, and I'm still trying to figure out how to build it where we get members to come on the show with us, whether it's we just send you a link through email or you send us an MP4 and we play the video. You guys tell us, especially members, like what would you like to see in your membership? Would you like to be part of the show, send a video, shave one of Soto's cats? He'll do anything.
What I vote is this, and what do you guys think? I think, let's say by the latest Saturday, we put out on our socials a question of the week based off what's happening that week. And then we'll have you guys, some members submit their responses via video, and we can play our favorites.
Works for me. You tell us. Let us know. Comments, social, email. We read it all. Until then, knock on wood if you're with me.